Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious. You can join us in broadening our minds on the Nameless Debates Discord via the link below and even feature here yourself, if you've got what it takes.
No, but actually, let's say, where do I tackle this first? What was the first one you said? The doctor.
We have universal healthcare.
Yeah.
I can go to the doctor whenever I need to.
So, I'm not certain about Australia's universal healthcare. I know I know enough about Britain's
Good shit, man.
England's universal healthcare to make me want to kill.
It's good shit. You can ask me questions about it if you like.
Well, I'll tell you what I know about what happened with my father, at least. My mother's friend. My mother had a friend from Switzerland. She married a guy from England, and he had cancer. He'd gone to the doctor every year, but they didn't tell him he had cancer until it was terminal. The same thing happened to my father. And then later on, after he died, I spoke to a radiologist, and I told them his symptoms after he came back from radiation therapy. And the radiologist goes, "Oh, that's strange. The radiation therapy he's supposed to undergo is supposed to numb the pain, not exacerbate it." And I go, "Oh, it's very interesting." Let's say, long story short, he found out he had cancer, and in a few months of whatever treatment they were giving him, he was dead within 2 months, I think. And then my mother's associate said the same thing happened to her husband. I don't believe it's a matter of coincidence that the habits shown by the healthcare system in England veered towards eugenics.
That is such a strange thing to hear you say.
Euthanasia.
Like, come on, let's attack it from a different angle because we are not going to agree about that.
Well, okay. Well, what about if I say the 2 children who were put to death because they didn't want to allow them to leave the country?
I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, there's probably a purposeful reason you haven't been informed.
That's so ridiculous to me.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a very conspiratorial thinker, my dude.
Well, it's not a conspiratorial thing at all.
It is. You're saying there is an agenda that involves why I haven't received that information. That's as conspiratorial as you can get.
Have you received the information?
I haven't looked for it. I don't inform myself about the happenings in the world.
I never had to look for it. Anyway.
That's not the point. It's not the fault of other people that I haven't informed myself about the happenings of the world. It's like if I say, for instance, something's reported on all over the world. Let's say there's a huge mass shooting, bigger than any before in the United States, right? And everybody knows about it. And you ask me if I know about it, and I say no, and then you go, there must be a reason that the information hasn't been given to you. It's like, I feel like you're jumping to a conclusion very quickly.
Well, I mean, let's say Canada has adjusting for population more mass shootings than America does. However, that's not reported.
I don't understand what the relevance of that is.
The relevance is because there's always going to be, no matter what country you're speaking about, an intentional campaign to deafen let's say ugly.
How old are you, man?
I'm almost 19.
It just sounds a bit paranoid. I definitely agree that when countries go wrong, that happens. But most first world countries are very free, and the amount of propaganda is relatively limited, honestly.
There has been no such thing as a first world country that hasn't released a substantial.
In sync, are we saying that only a little poison is acceptable?
Yeah, dude. Hasn't what?
There is no such thing as a first world country that doesn't release propaganda every year.
I'd never said that there was. I said that the first world countries seem to do a better job of not posting propaganda.
If I were to present you with every bit of propaganda, let's say, you probably would say, "Oh, that seems," because that would be something that comport.
Dude, I guarantee you that authoritarian regimes will they will take the cake for the amount of propaganda total.
I don't believe that's incorrect. What I do believe is that an authoritarian regime has to release propaganda before it has the authority to be authoritarian.
I don't care. The point that I'm making is that propaganda is something that arises from people having shallow opinions about subjects about which they're not properly informed. You're never going to get around that. Like people are going to listen. For instance, when you know Jordan Peterson, right?
I'm aware of him.
Yeah. When women interview him online, right? The way that they interview him is propagandistic. They try to portray him a certain way, right? Do you agree with that?
I have never seen any online. I don't.
You haven't? You should look it up. It's pretty crazy, man.
I've specifically chosen to stop following him.
It's extremely dishonest stuff.
I watched all of his series when they first came out, besides the Bible series, because I was intent on reading that myself. And then I saw his demeanor change, and I was like, well, he's no.
His demeanor changed to what?
I don't know. His behavior changed, and I didn't like it.
His what? Sorry.
His behavior changed. He was coming close to contradicting himself, so I stopped following him.
Could you explain? Hey, Stacy, turn off your mic.
No, not really. I just noticed some. I noticed something change. Can
you tell me what you noticed?
I can't tell you in particular.
Why can't you tell me?
I intentionally didn't delve into it.
So you basically didn't look too closely.
No, well, let's say.
Because I feel like that's a consequence of what I'm talking about. You're like, I didn't really look into it, but I saw his demeanor change. Well, if you didn't look into it, you're probably getting your information from second or third sources, correct?
No, I didn't get. No, I didn't.
Then what did you observe?
I observed his style of speech change, his body language.
To what? Could you give me an example?
I cannot tell you.
From what to what?
Hello.
I don't understand. I just don't understand. I hold the position personally that if you claim to know something or you claim to have information which supports your conclusion, you should be able to explain it to me. You should be able to explain it to other people. If you can't,
that is a logical conclusion. However,
and if you can't, maybe you don't know it. Right? That's possible.
Can you decipher can you describe specifically how your face changed from your developmental stage to adulthood?
How what, sorry?
Can you describe how your face changed from childhood to adulthood?
If I studied what do you call it? Anatomy and physiology, I could, absolutely. My girlfriend probably could. She's a registered nurse.
Can you tell me how your girlfriend's body language changes before, during, and after?
It doesn't really. She's why would there is no prompt for her body language to change because she's relaxed normally when we're together, and so she wouldn't suddenly have a reaction to the thing.
So you're saying that you notice absolutely no change?
I'm saying that there's no change when she explains something to me between her body language when she's not explaining something to me. No.
I was asking. You notice no body language when she is anticipating coitus.
What? How has that got anything to do with it?
Do you or
no,
do you?
Of course I notice body language then.
Can you describe the body language to me?
Yeah, for sure. For instance, she starts to touch her hair a bit more. She starts to touch her hair a bit more. She will sit with a what would you call it? She'll sit in a way that makes her body reflect the idea that she's open, right? When people are closed off to things, they tend to sit, for instance, with their arms and legs closed, crossed. They have certain facial expressions. When someone's interested in having sex with you, they generally make a lot more eye contact. Often they say something, there's lots of stuff.
Okay. Why do you think you're able to decipher that much information?
Because I pay attention.
So you're saying that you're saying that if you were watching this, or let's say if you'd only seen your girlfriend whore herself once out online, you'd be able to decipher this information very easily.
What?
If you were to have observed this online once, you would have been able.
I'd definitely be, yeah. Most of the things that I just said to you are universal signals of sexual interest. So, for instance, when you're talking to a girl at a bar and like she laughs at your joke and then touches your arm, that is not female dependent. That's like intersubjectively agreed to be a signal that she's interested
So
in
what's
you.
what's the universal signifier of someone's demeanor changing?
What do you mean? There is no universal signifier of it. They have a way that they are acting, speaking, sitting, stuff like that, right? That's their demeanor. If it changes, it has changed. I don't even understand your question.
The
How
point
do you determine it's changed? Because you're watching, you're paying attention. Like you happen to notice changes. That's how you're programmed.
The point I was trying to make is that despite the fact that you notice things, that doesn't mean that you always notice what you notice.
So I don't understand the relevance of that remark.
Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Does that not directly contradict the statement that if I do notice a change, I should be able to substantiate what that change was?
Why don't you explain to me how the contradiction comes about?
It is okay. Let's say, do you believe that it is a positive claim universally that if I notice something, I should be able to substantiate what I notice?
That you should be able to what?
That I should be able to substantiate what I notice.
That's not what I said. I said it is my opinion, and I actually said this very clearly. It's my opinion that if you're telling me that you know something or that you understand something, I'm allowed to, it's my standard, I'm allowed to require of you that you can explain it to me. And if you can't, inside my head, I will, because it's my right to do so, make the following determination about you. If you can't explain to me what you know or how you know it, I don't think you know at all. I think you're probably confused because people are confused all the time. And a hallmark of understanding something, all educators agree about this, is being able to explain it to someone else in simple terms.
I agree with most of that. I don't agree with I don't agree with how hard you pressed me.
What's my opinion? I think it matters. You can disagree.
It came off as a bit aggressive.
Yep, I probably do come off that way sometimes.
Well, not that. Let's say when we're coming off as aggressive when there is information I'm withholding, that's totally fine. However, it seemed like you were getting upset because I told you there is no information I can give you. I'm not withholding information, and you demanded said information.
No, how did that happen? Sorry.
I told you. I know. And well, after I finish this and you retort, we can go to the next thing. I don't really see much point in this.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean.
I told you I noticed a change in his demeanor. You asked,
Yes.
what was it? I said, I don't know. I noticed a change in his demeanor.
Yes, I'm saying like,
there is no point the conversation could go after that.
okay, let me put it to you this way, all right? When you say I noticed a change in your demeanor or his demeanor, what you're saying is, right, that you something grabbed your attention and that you didn't figure out what it was. But I'm saying that information is probably hidden in your memory of the attention grabbing. Maybe if you looked, you could find it. People often can. There's lots of information hidden in our memories that we haven't yet uncovered because our interpretation is blocking it.
Okay.
So like I am annoyed that you're not looking at it because you're saying you already understand it. That's irritating.
I never said I understood it.
No, but you are implying you do because you're saying
I explicitly stated that I decided not to it.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Is I'm saying like give it another go. Maybe it can be done.
Do you not believe it is my right to not do so?
Of course, but I'm just saying I don't understand why you wouldn't keep trying.
It's fruitless.
I don't agree. You might be wrong.
I can gain something from anything that I do, so long as I don't partake in anything that is self-destructive.
You don't know that it's self-destructive. You could be wrong about it. Yes or no?
I never said it. I never said it was self-destructive.
But you're implying it is very directly.
I never implied it was self-destructive either.
Why are you saying it then? Well, where did self-destructiveness come up if you didn't imply that the thing that we're talking about is self-destructive?
Because that is the limit whereby something ceases to be useful.
But you're saying that you don't find this useful.
No, you said
Yeah, so then you're saying it's self-destructive.
no, not at all.
Well, then how does it qualify for not useful?
There's always a third option, and people always go
No,
to.
there's not. Actually, there's a specific logical law against that. It's called the law of excluded middle. There's not always a third option. If you phrase the question properly, there are only two options. Either the statement is true or the statement is false.
However, I never phrased the question. You phrased it.
Yeah, but no, but what I'm saying is that you're saying there's a third option. I'm saying there's not. What's the third option?
The third option is the thing I'm about to say now. You misinterpreted my statement.
So tell me how.
Let's say, and I may stutter with this because I have a tendency to block out things when people go on about things that don't add to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Said that, let's say, I said I noticed something about Dr. Peterson's behavior that changed. I intentionally chose not to go into it. You asked me why. I said because I didn't see any use in it, which is not the complete reason. The real reason is that, let's say, I enjoyed listening to him. I respected his opinions, and I noticed there was going to be a shift in my opinion of him, so I chose to abstain from any further updates so I could preserve him in my memory.
But that is not necessarily true. Maybe you're making a prejudgment of him that isn't justified.
Let's say, I won't go into there.
Well, let me put it this way. I still follow him. I don't agree with you, and you don't even seem to know what you mean because you said you can't tell me what you noticed about him. I'm saying I've been watching him for ages. I think that he's an incredibly educated person, and I haven't noticed anything of the sort that you mentioned.
I also believe that Sam Harris is an incredibly educated person.
So,
what is your
that
point?
seems like a non sequitur.
Who's the person in question?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay.
All right, now
my point was pretty simple.
I believe that the fact that you went into this point of the conversation means that you weren't listening to me.
No, you asked what's my point. My point was pretty simple. My point was, right, you're saying you noticed that your opinion would change. Now, that is actually a prophecy, really. You don't know that. You predicted it was true. You don't know. You can't check it because you stopped watching, right? Like, you don't know if your opinion was going to change. You made a prediction. You acted on your prediction, and the prediction could have been wrong. That's a fact.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm saying I didn't make your decision. I didn't stop watching him, and I don't know what you're referring to. So then I say, since I know what the subject we're talking about is, I watch his videos and stuff. I listen to his lectures, right? I'm asking you, what exactly was it that you noticed? Maybe I can give you some insight on it, and you tell me you don't even know what it is that you noticed. Of course, I'm going to regard your opinion as less significant if you can't even explain it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you the little that happened before my decision. And I'll preface this by saying I've watched at least 200 hours of Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, I've watched the entirety of all the series. I've watched every video on his channel.
Well, I mean, that's like literally impossible, but I would believe you watched at least one lecture series, yeah.
I watched all of his lecture series.
You can't have watched all of them because he's still making them.
Shh, you can use some common sense here. If I stopped watching him, but I watched several hours of him, does that mean that I would have to have stopped at some point?
Didn't you say you watched all of it? All of his lecture series?
Okay, fine. I understand. It's like, can I say one thing here? Because I've noticed it.
I'm just confused. Like, it's hundreds of hours. That's why I was confused.
Can I say one thing here? Let's say there's something called the law and the spirit of the law. You outlaw child pornography to protect children. If a 14-year-old child sends a nude picture to a 14-year-old child, typically speaking, you wouldn't arrest either child because you'd be endangering them more than they're endangering themselves.
Let's make the example more realistic. That happens. No, stop. That happens, and then the photo remains on the device for 2 years until both children are over 16, which is over the age of consent in my country. And so then one of them has underage porn on their phone. By definition, it is underage porn, and they are not underage. What do you say then?
You think they should go to jail?
Interesting, right? Because you said the exact opposite just before. What's the difference between keeping it on your device?
I'm not really.
It's not like they elicited it when the person was of a different. Like, it wasn't like they got it when they had an underage barrier, right?
I don't understand what you're trying to say. So what you're
I'm
trying
trying to ask your opinion on the situation.
What is your opinion?
Yeah, you just said they should go to jail, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay, what did you say? Sorry, I might have misheard you.
You've been doing that a lot lately. I don't appreciate it.
Okay, well, like, your connection's a bit choppy. I'm not doing it on purpose.
If my connection is choppy and you've been mishearing me, the last thing you should do is speak over me.
Okay, well, I don't feel like that's the main thing I've been doing, but alright.
This is all recorded, right?
Yeah, of course. And it'll be going up on YouTube.
Alright, well, if it's something that so pleases you, you can see how many times this happened.
Okay.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that we have laws to protect people. Well, let's say generally, that law is to protect somebody. If you were to arrest a child for having that, you would not be living up to the spirit of the law. When I said that, Jesus Christ, what is it that I even said that you corrected? Do you remember?
I mean, we were talking about the law of non-contradiction and contradictory propositions.
That is way behind where I was at.
That's where this whole conversation came from. We've been on a digression for like 25 minutes.
Well, you see, I feel like this would be a lot nicer conversation if we were speaking in person.
Probably not. I'm pretty disagreeable.
That's totally fine with me. There are a lot of things that you would not do if the threat of physical presence was there.
That is not accurate. I'm very disagreeable.
I
don't think you couldn't threaten me into submission.
I wouldn't threaten you into submission.
So then there would be nothing about it. I'm telling you, I act exactly this way in person. Ask the people who know me.
That's a problem.
That's a problem in your opinion. It works out fine for me.
I mean, the reason I say that's a problem is because I'm the exact same way. I had to start working out because I talk too much. I would get into fights with strangers just by being nice to them.
Yeah, I mean, I managed to do it without getting bashed, so.
I mean, let's say. You can say it however you like. However,
it's true.
I do genuinely say too much. I went to one individual. I was speaking. He was sitting with my friend. I sat down, and we were speaking for a while. And I stopped him mid-sentence, and I said, "Stop." And he goes, "What?" And I say, "You are a two-faced bastard." He didn't say anything mean. I just saw it. And then he started laughing. And later that night, he admitted to me that he was a killer. And I was like, "Hey, see, I did see it." I think actually
a killer.
Yeah, he murdered a guy.
I feel like you need to add context to that for it to make sense.
Well, I was talking to him in private. I asked him about himself, and he admitted to me that he killed somebody.
No, but like, how did you get to the two-faced bastard thing?
I just listened to him speak.
I don't understand what you're talking about. What are you saying you noticed?
About the individual?
Yeah, what made you come to the conclusion that he was a two-faced bastard?
The way he spoke.
I don't feel like what I'm asking you is difficult. Be more specific.
He spoke like a two-faced bastard.
How is that? How do two-faced bastards speak?
You know, I could break something down as far down as you...
Yeah, fucking do. I'm pretty clearly asking you to explain yourself.
I have no idea how to explain it at this point.
I don't understand what you think is happening here. Like, do you think that is... Do you think that that's not... It's irrelevant, it doesn't mean something? I'm telling you, like, when you can't explain yourself, you should take it as a marker that you need to think more about what you think you know.
I know he was a two-faced bastard.
How the fuck do you know it? Have you ever considered that? How do you know?
Well, immediately after I told him that, he laughed, said, "I like."
That isn't proof. I'm saying, how did you know to say it?
I don't have any impulse control, so I just said it.
Oh fuck. Can anybody else explain the question to him?
What
Okay,
caused
so like
the
Noe.
impulse?
Yeah, so like Noe. When you say that he was speaking like a two-faced bastard, that means like two-faced bastards speak a certain type of way. And like, in what way does a two-faced bastard speak? Or is it just some feeling that you have? You're like, I feel like he's a two-faced bastard. Is that what you meant to say?
It's just a feeling.
Okay.
Of course, I
Okay,
can't infer that feeling unless he was doing.
I don't know. I guess I understand why you didn't admit to that like forthrightly then, because like that's obviously a terrible evidence to support your conclusion. Yeah, that you have an intuition that something is true is like the bottom tier of evidence.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Let's say I've been trying to abstain from saying that I have good intuition, but generally speaking, it is very true.
I don't care. Intuition is
this whole
not a
conversation
reliable
is-
method.
Dude, maybe your intuition is wrong, but mine is always correct.
I don't believe my
I have an
intuition is
intuition
always
that that's a
correct.
load of bullshit.
Now, let's say in the
Well,
in the
dude, your
same-
intuition is at the bottom of the evidence hierarchy.
That's
same-
some baseless claims from you.
in the same outing that I met this particular individual, I also met another girl who I was sitting next to studying, and after I spoke to her for about 5 minutes, I said, "Stop," and she goes, "What?" And I said, "You're an engineer, aren't you?" And she goes, "How did you know that?" And I said, "Because the way."
Hey dude. Do you know what an anecdote is?
All
Dude, I
I'm,
love it.
Do you know what an anecdote is?
I'm aware of what an anecdote is.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about your anecdotes. They don't mean anything. They are not significant.
So, like, Noe, every time you get this feeling that someone is a thing, do you always, like, preface it with stop, and then you explain the thing? Or, like, just say what they are?
Oh
Is
no,
that
no,
what
I
you
love
do?
being I love being dramatic.
Stop!
yes.
Here is what you are.
Hold
Stop,
on,
you're
Instinct. Speak for
two-faced
yourself.
bastard.
I think Noe's
2 days later,
anecdotes. I think
Stop! You're an
I think Noe's
engineer.
anecdotes are amazing because like he told me about this engineer incident and now he's telling me something else that happened on the same app.
I know, it's crazy, dude.
Listen to him speak for long enough, I can piece together his entire life.
Crumbo, stop! You're an asshole.
There people online know my specific sexual preference.
Dude, listen, the point is, when we're asking you for reasons, you can't give anecdotes.
Okay.
They're just not valid, technically.
I'll end this on one statement. Let's say the way that the reason I have confidence in the way that I live my life is because the beliefs that I have I project upon the world and I get the result that I was expecting.
That's a faulty line of reasoning.
How so?
Well, I mean, you said it was your closing statement. We'll have to really get into it, but like, basically, where did your mind come from if that was the case?
I don't believe that you interpreted my statement properly, if that's
Okay, but you said that like the way that the world works is something that you're projecting based on what you think of it.
Not necessarily, no.
That definitely. Look,
I
it
said that- I
sounded
said-
like that's
I
what
said-
you said.
I'll repeat what I said almost,
Mhm.
and I'll hope you get the same response. Otherwise, that
Yep.
would mean some kind of judgment clouding your
Mhm.
interpretation.
Repeat it.
Okay.
Yeah, issue this a problem instinct. Just to be clear.
Could you
I
repeat
said,
it?
the reason I have confidence in the way that I behave is because I project my beliefs onto the world, and I get the result I was expecting.
Okay, so you project your beliefs onto the world. What does that mean?
It means I behave It means I behave in a way that is conducive to what I want.
That's not what project means, unless you mean world as like the phenomenological experience you have.
There's. I
What
don't.
does world mean?
Have you ever read a I won't say that. You're probably a well-read person, but have you never heard someone say that they project their behaviors?
Yes, I know, and I know what they mean, but you're not saying what you mean. I'm asking you, right? When you say that, do you mean the world that you perceive? Like the world of perception for you?
This is what I was getting into before when I said about the law and the spirit of the law.
Okay, look,
I
here's my
understand.
question.
I understand
No,
the
you
literal
don't. Do you project them onto the world itself, or do you project them onto your interpretation of your experience? Like, is it the way
There can
that
only
you
there is only an interpretation.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying. So then my question is,
Well, then what's the point of this conversation?
What's
If-
interpreting it?
What do you mean? What's interpreting it?
What is the interpreter? You said there's only interpretation.
Those are two different questions.
No, they're not. You said there is only interpretation. Is that not an absolute?
Sure.
Okay, so then interpretation is the only thing that exists. There is nothing that is objectively real. Correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Well, so then there's not just interpretation.
Okay.
There's objective reality, and then there is interpretation. Do we agree?
Sure.
Okay, so when you say there is only interpretation, what do you mean?
I can only interpret.
So you're saying my world is entirely interpretation?
Yes.
Yeah, that's called phenomenological experience, right? That's distinct from the world itself.
Is that not what you thought I meant?
I tried to clarify with you and you said no.
Well, do you think I've contradicted myself in this bout?
Yes, yeah, definitely. In the last 5 minutes, you definitely contradicted yourself.
How so?
Because I asked you a question about what you meant, because I thought I understood you, and you told me a couple of times that I wasn't understanding you, but we got to my conclusion, and I did understand you.
I think you let something slip by there.
Well, what do you think?
I still said that there's only interpretation, and then I also
No,
said
you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
There is only has a specific meaning. It means there are no other things. You can't say there is also. There is only precludes your ability to say that.
It depends on who's saying it.
No, it doesn't. There is only precludes there is also.
Words are special
Like
for him.
logically. Logically speaking, if you say there is only, you cannot also say there is also. It doesn't make any sense.
Aye. Okay. I'll change it then. Also, I'm not sure if it's me. I speak so much more colorfully than you want me to.
No, I don't have a problem with the color. I have a problem with the unnecessary baggage that is supporting some of your color.
It's hard for me not to speak the way that I do. I want you to know this. I want you to know that I'm comporting to your style of speech to
I appreciate it.
to comfort you. Also because
I think that's a little condescending, but I appreciate it.
I mean, it is condescending because it's not true. I could leave. I don't want to. Also, it's not because I'm trying to comfort you. It's because you demand more from people than I do. So if I want to stay, then I have to give in to your demands.
Yeah.
Anywho.
So, did you want to restate it without the?
I don't even know what I was saying.
So you said there is only interpretation. What's the proper way to say that? I don't understand.
What's the proper?
Wait a minute. Are you saying, the only world that I have access to is entirely interpretation? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Okay, there we go. So that's not at all the same as there is only interpretation, by the way.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I'm happy you got that. I didn't. First of all, I've been intentionally whenever I say something and then you don't get the meaning, and I've been intentionally not explaining it the best I can because I don't want to. It's partly because I want to know if I'm stupid or if you're just not seeing it.
What's your conclusion so far?
I don't know. See, the thing is I've been in many Discord servers, and there have been times where I've been shouted down and told I'm retarded for upwards of 40 minutes to an hour and 30. I'm a very patient individual, so I can sit down and talk to a banshee for that long, but And sometimes after that conversation, I'll find wrong, and I was wrong. And sometimes after those conversations, I'll find out that they were wrong, and that they tacitly admitted it in other conversations.
I always directly admit it.
I don't say anything I don't believe to be true, and so there's nothing to admit during a conversation.
No, but I can be mistaken about something and say something that I don't mean.
Well, do you believe that I've done so during this conversation?
No, I'm saying that's what I do. Whenever I do
I'm
that, I
asking,
admit it.
I'm asking,
I
do you
admit it
believe,
forthrightly.
do you believe that I've made any admittances of being
Maybe-
wrong during this
No,
conversation?
but I do believe that you've made mistakes that you're not seeing.
That is a fair assumption.
Well, it's not an it's not an assumption. It's an observation or an evaluation.
Well, anyway, I don't know the point of all these things. What I really want.
Right, well, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what you think, right? So, we were talking about God originally, right? You want to defend the Bible.
Not really, no. I was hoping that someone would say, I don't know the Bible, and I would say, I don't either, and then we could not do that.
Interesting.
I really just like hearing atheists argue against the Bible. I just like being spoken at in that regard.
You're a bit submissive then? Masochistic?
No, I'm not masochistic. I can just listen to opinions I don't believe with. I don't believe.
Yeah,
and
yeah, of course. I was just, because you enjoy it, right?
I don't enjoy it.
You did say that, though.
I don't enjoy it.
You did say that, though.
I like listening to opinions. I don't like.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but
I don't
also,
like the fact that it has to come from these people.
That's a good clarification, but you did say it.
Okay. Also, I just want to say this, right? After I say I like the before I clarify it, at the point of contradiction, I don't know if it's a thing that you do specifically in debate, but I think that you know what I mean. You like.
No,
Let's say,
I don't.
Really?
I'm autistic about the meanings of words. That's what makes me so good at this particular thing, is that I read and hear only exactly what the words you're using mean. So the things that you think,
So
I have
see,
to figure them out.
that's the thing, is because there's a logical conclusion from the statement that I've said.
No, I don't agree. I think
No.
that when there are words in your statement that are ambiguous, the fact that I'm confused demonstrates that to be the case. If they were not ambiguous, I couldn't get confused, right? And so when I ask you questions that clarify it, that's me working through the ambiguity that was inherent in the thing you said to begin with.
I'll just take that. All right, I'll take that. Okay. And so, understanding that, and I know I'm a confusing individual. That's not just a thing that I do with you.
No, it's okay.
I don't have a style of speech or even understanding things that isn't strange to others. Like, for instance, the way that I came about believing in God, which is apparently how most people become atheists.
How? Sorry.
Economics.
Economics is how.
Feminist videos and economics.
I don't think that is how.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I read let's say, didn't you hear that or was that somewhere else? Anyway, I'll say it again. I watched those feminist Rex videos.
That's how you became atheist. How do you know that's how other people do?
No, I said that's how I became Christian.
Okay, yeah, no, but you said, but apparently that's how most people became atheist?
Yes.
How do you come to that conclusion?
Whenever I speak to someone, they always say that they became atheist because they read let's say, they read something contradictory, something else took that spot, or they came to the logical conclusion that it was not true.
That doesn't sound like what you originally said.
Sure, it doesn't. It isn't.
I just don't understand why you said that that's how they usually come to the conclusion of atheism. Because
No, Instinct, you don't understand. He's intentionally doing this.
But, I mean, I just don't understand what he thinks I'm supposed to be following.
Well, there is a main storyline here, but you're derailing it.
What's the main storyline? Enlighten me.
That's a very good question, and you're derailing it.
How am I derailing it?
Well, let's see if you can pick that up.
Why don't you try to give me a hint?
If I gave you a hint, what would you learn?
I mean, it seems like you might be trolling, but...
I'm not trolling you. This is just how I. Here's the thing: is let's say.
Well, look. Here's what I think. I think that if you had something serious to say, and you're saying that I'm derailing the plot that you want the conversation to have, but you're not going to tell me what you want to do, I'm not really sure what you want from me.
Well, this is what I want from you. What I want from you is I want to slam my head on the same door until it opens.
What? I'm confused. What do you mean?
Do you know anything about the Buddhist religion?
Yeah.
How do the Buddhists teach?
Well, talking.
No, the Buddhists do not talk at all.
That is not true.
No, what the Buddhists do is, well, it depends on which Buddhist you're talking about. If you're talking about...
I'm talking about like Buddha. Buddha, he taught by talking.
If you're talking about, let's say, if you're talking about the Buddhists that live...
So you're talking about denominational Buddhism?
Sure.
So why would you like generalize from denominational Buddhism to Buddhism in general? Like Buddhism is the emulation of the Buddha, you know that, right?
I'm aware.
Yeah, so the Buddha
So you
actually
just did that to see if you could pick it up, Instinct.
I don't know. No, in this case, no. That's the exact opposite of what I've been made aware of.
Well, but the Buddha did speak.
Oh, no,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, he spoke. Of course the man spoke.
He spoke quite a bit. He explained the things that he thought. That's how we have Buddhism, my dude.
I am going to come back to you on that.
I have looked into it, trust me.
I've looked into it as well. That's where our point of contention.
Well, I'll give you one example of something the Buddha said. The Buddha said that metaphysical speculation is a waste of time because you cannot know anything about it. For instance, that's something that the Buddha did say.
Okay, in context to what?
In context to someone asking him about where the universe came from. He said that it's a pointless question.
You know what?
What?
You know what? I really don't. Actually, you know what? I'm off of work for 2 weeks. I can read a couple books on Buddha.
Okay.
However, I'm going to come back to you with this, and you'll be like, "Who are you?" And also, I don't care. If that happens, once again, I'm gonna Kurt Cobain myself.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen with me.
Well, at worst, I'll just give you a long... You know, also, I feel really stupid reading a book and reciting it to someone. That feels like the dumbest thing I could possibly do.
Why's that?
The person who read that book had to have come to that conclusion.
Pardon?
Anyone who writes a book has to have come to their conclusions. Unless it's a...
Not necessarily. They could be writing about what they know now about how little they know now, for instance.
You know what? You could have said, or a book about historical fact.
Well, I mean, historical fact is like about conveying conclusions that have been come to. That's what you mean when you say fact, presumably.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that is...
I've been not
blowing
my nose the entire time I'm here because it would hurt my head to get up.
Nice.
Okay. Well, to conclude this conversation, this lovely conversation, what have you learned about me so far?
You seem to, from what I can tell, say things that you don't really believe in an attempt to check whether or not other people can detect it, and then mix that in with your actual opinions so that you don't have to justify yourself properly.
No.
That's my experience so far.
Well, you said I say things I don't believe in.
No, you said, yeah, I said you definitely say some things you don't believe in, for sure.
I don't think I said anything I don't believe in.
Okay, well,
I've said things
mean-
that I said things that I believed in, and then have improved.
Okay, let me put it more precisely. Sorry. You employ deceit by pretending not to know what I'm talking about. Better?
No, because you're the one that's been more confused about what I'm talking about.
No, you admitted to doing it on purpose.
I think that's what
That's
Stacy.
called deceit.
I think that's what Stacy said.
Just saying. I know, but it's called deceit. That's what I would call trolling, by the way. So I don't know what you're saying when you're saying you're not trolling.
I never made the positive statement that I do things to be deceitful. That was.
I don't really care. I think it's accurate. It seems to represent you.
Well, that seems very hurtful, friend.
I mean, look, I'm saying that when you make certain arguments, you definitely admitted personally that you are being ignorant to what I'm talking about on purpose. You did say that yourself.
Can you give me context?
No, I'll have to go back and listen to the recording, but I know you said it.
Interesting.
Like I think the context was like, you said, most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm like, I don't know what you said. It was either like being obstinate or ignorant or something on purpose, so that I don't think you actually got to a conclusion. I think you got cut off. But the inference that I made was so that you could see how I responded to it and whether or not I could tell you what you were doing wrong.
No, that was when Stacy spoke for me. That wasn't my statement.
No. I'm saying that's the conclusion I came to before Stacy said anything about it.
Okay. Well, see, that's two people speaking for me now. Wonderful.
Okay, so why don't you speak for yourself?
I never really was going to rebut that, or not rebut it. I was
Well,
never.
no, but I'm asking you to. You just said it was other people speaking for you.
All
Speak
right.
for yourself.
Well, let's see here. When I say things like this. I'll say something. I'll say that the reason I went on about the immovable object and unstoppable force was because if you're in conversation and something seems to be contradictory, I've always been able to find that there's a line of logic that leads it to not contradict itself. For instance, if the unstoppable force goes through if the unstoppable force goes through the immovable object, it would no longer, neither of the constraints that both of these forces have been given would be contradicted. And so
I don't really think that you're like being faithful to the intended semantic interpretation of force and object in that context.
no, I'm not. But the thing is I'm holding the principal rule of these objects over the physical limitations of them.
No, but I'm saying like you can't do that and still make sense because like the whole point is you're modeling physical things.
That's your problem.
No, I'm saying like when you say so. Let's put it this way. When you propose things, are you not proposing a possible thing?
Here's one thing I've noticed about you, is when I asked you to tell me what you think about me specifically because I know about me. Now,
Of course.
Now, when I told you that you were wrong, the first thing you said was no. What I meant to say was, as if you in the initial statement because it's the
because you asked me to formulate it on the spot and I didn't like get it.
Well, then what's wrong with saying okay, that's wrong, I'll readjust? What's wrong with doing that immediately?
I thought that's what I did say. My apologies, mate.
Well, it's the thing is the choice of words you use is
for sure. But now you're bringing it up, and I clarified, and I feel like continuing to go on about it is a waste of time.
Hello.
So continue.
Okay.
What? Oh, he said he had to go. Okay.
That conversation was amazing in sync.
That was AIDS, dude. That
You
was
said
fucking
You
I
should
gained
have
an
seen,
understanding of the inner workings of your mind.
dude. You
That
should
was
have
AIDS.
seen when me and him, like when he first came on here and I met him. Holy shit!
I want to kill myself after that interaction, dude.
Yeah, you could ask Crambo, man. It was bad.
You know it's pronounced Crambo, right?
Crambo.
Crambo, you piece of shit.
I'm gonna pronounce it however the fuck I want. Are
I
you the
will
arbiter of
face you
like
to
how
death.
things
I
are
want
pronounced?
you to know that those last two letters in my name are a joke making fun of you.
You're a joke.
He's right though. That is what it's about.
Thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and join us in the Nameless Debates Discord. We hope to see you there.